Wonderful. Now, something completely different now. It's not a lecture. It's not you are sitting in front of the computer and type. It is an open discussion. My name is Jörg Saßmannshausen. I'm a chemist. I started off working in the lab when I was 15, simply because I've done an apprenticeship. Back in 2010, I changed from IT supporting my chemistry to IT supporting my chemistry. Currently, I'm working at Imperial College London. And as you can see, the title of the talk is How to Recruit and Retain. Incidentally, I accidentally wrote retrain instead of retain, but it fits as well. Talents in research computing. So what is it all about? The agenda. I think we all have the problem. We don't get new people in. We are looking for people who can work in research computing, in HPC, doing software installation, and we don't get them. So what I would like to try out here is an open discussion and to simply show there are a few ideas I've done before. The most obvious one is pay people more. How can it be that somebody who finishes university is earning more money than his mother who is at university for quite a long time? So that sounds a little bit strange, but it is reality. Another thing we were discussing internally is I've done an apprenticeship. So I left school at the age of 15, hence I could work in the lab. And I'm pretty sure there are plenty of talents around who are absolutely fantastic in terms of IT, but they never get a chance because they can't go to university. In the UK, if you go to the university, you have to pay student fees, which is in the region of 10K per year. So unless you have some funding, it is not possible. So one of the ideas I would like to discuss here is, can we have some kind of an apprenticeship where we say, okay, talented people, we can siphon them off from school at the age of, sake of argument, 16. We educate them for, again, sake of argument, 3 years, as I did. There is some kind of standard. So when I'm actually educating a student, an apprenticeship, and they are leaving our apprenticeship, the University of Birmingham, where is Simon sitting in front of me, knows, okay, that is a certain standard. I know that person knows about networking. I know that person knows about how to set up a cluster. I know that person knows about XYZ. So that is the idea behind it. And I'm stepping back now, leave the floor open to discussion. Tell me what you think about it. Have a better idea. I had a quick chat with Kenneth earlier on, who is sitting right at the end. What we are doing is, if you are a little bit too frightened to speak out aloud now because it is recorded, we've got a coffee break later on. Please feel free to speak out here. Because at one point, I'm in the position, I'm very open here, I'm in the position I need to pass on all my knowledge to the younger generation. Because at one point, I'm no longer standing here. I hope it will be in the distant future, but yeah. So I was fortunate when I was at the University of Graz. Core IT took me under their wings and they showed me how to do things. But I was lucky. How about the people who are really good and would be an absolute wonderful replacement for me or any of the room here? And we've got quite a diverse knowledge base here. An absolute wonderful replacement, but they never have given that chance. So I shut up now. What I would appreciate is just raise your hand and speak to the microphone so the people who are remote can participate. Anybody, any ideas? You don't have to stick to that. If you tell me it's complete and utter rubbish, fine.
Here in Jülich, there is something called Mathe. I think the Germans can help me here. So it's a kind of a training called mathematics and software development. What is the degree that they come up with when they finish? Bachelor, yeah. So it's a bachelor, but it made for this. And a lot of those people, a number of people that are at JSC now, they did this when they were, but I think you're thinking a bit earlier than that, right?
Yes, I started at the age of 16, and as we've seen in one of the previous slides, somebody started to use Python at the age of 4 or whatever it was. So maybe not 4 years old. So, but you know, somebody who already is finishing their secondary school.
But I think starting early is important. 4 years old is very young, but I think my son, when he was first exposed to any computery programming stuff, he was like 8, and he was doing very basic things with Scratch, which is puzzle language. But now he's 14 and he's correcting his teacher while they're doing programming classes. So his teacher says, "You can't do that," and he raises his hand and says, "Yes, you can. I'll show you how." So you need to start very early, and some people you will lose. I mean, I've been involved in this Coder Dojo thing, which is free classes, open source style. You just register that you're coming. 1 week you can come, the other week you can't, right? And we'll ask you, what are you interested in? The Scratch language, or playing with robots, or doing 3D printing, or all these things, electronics as well. And you just help the kids in what they're interested in. They come in and they expect a class, and it's not a class. We give you starting instructions, and we explicitly tell you, try to deviate from the starting instructions as soon as you can. And they go off playing, and a month later they come back and say, "I want to learn Django." And like, oh crap, then you have to learn Django yourself to be able to help them. But giving these kids a kickstart is I think a very good thing. So for people in the room who want to help the situation, making the situation better, try to get involved with these local kind of initiatives. I think is very important. Go find stuff that's there already, and if it's not there, maybe try starting one yourself. What I also want to add is, and what I see on almost a daily level in support tickets today, is that we're currently sort of dealing with a lost generation. That's putting it very harshly, but it's people that grew up without proper education in basic computer science. They grew up with smartphones and they think they know how our computer works, but they don't. And I have hope, if I see the kind of classes that my son gets now in age 14, I have hope that 10 years from now, the situation is going to be a lot better. But let's see. Yeah. Starting young, I think, is very important.
So I think it's a very interesting idea to go about it. And I think from the list there, one of the things is making sure people realize that these careers are visible from a young age, that they know that this is a natural path for them to go by. Because one of the things is that working in the, I guess, in the background of the HPCs to make things work, to make sure that the research comes there, it's not as visible as the actual researchers themselves. So it's making sure that this path is there, and they realize how crucial it is to get all the things, the world around us as it is. So getting from a young age that this path is visible could be one way of just outreach to younger people on that.
I think at the danger of generalizing a bit too much, but it's also worth it to advertise the benefits of being in academia, having significant flexibility in what you do with your time, particularly if you have a young family, to be able to bring your kids to appointments or whatever. I see, and this is completely generalized because there's also industries where there's some more flexibility, but most people I know work in industry are significantly more restricted than I am. They have to be at work at a certain time, and particularly I hear stories of young people going to gaming companies and they have to scrum it, and when there's a new release coming up, they have to work 14-hour days for a few days. And obviously when you're 25 and you have no family, you can probably crunch it, but once you have a baby, your partner will not be happy with you. So it's good to advertise like more vacation time. You can take a Friday off or something. You just catch up a bit later without your boss having to check every single minute what you're doing.
Just to add to that, I was talking to some 16-year-old school leavers, and they said, well, I like IT, but I also like chemistry, physics, whatever. What shall I do? Is it either this or that? And I said, look at me, you can do both, which is also one of the reasons I'm going around and tell people I'm a gentleman scientist. So to show people you can have a career in IT, but you still can pursue your chemistry, for example.
Yeah, in Belgium, actually, we already have a program like that at the moment. Because a few weeks ago, we did a data center tour, and then somebody reached out to me if they could join as well. And so the kid the person that was asking asked because they now have a 16-year-old working in their lab, and they wanted to show him the data center as well. So yeah, it's from the government itself has made the program for students who are like in the last 2 years, I think, of secondary school, to have some vocational experience. And so so some labs at our university are already doing it.
I'm just wondering what we are really discussing right now, because I think there's very mixed different topics right now. So like retain talents in IT, I think one of the major problems, at least in Germany, I don't know if it's the same in other European countries, is that IT is not seen as scientific. And in IT, you rarely get a chance to write lots of papers, and you rarely get citations because you do like system release papers or something like that. So it doesn't work in science. Students,
I actually disagree with that. I disagree. I've been writing papers in the last decade where I'm in an IT support team. You write papers if you want to, and that's what Jörg does as well.
Yeah, but it doesn't work for the students nowadays, let's say. So people don't want to go to IT. They say it's not scientific work. I don't get a chance to publish my papers. It will delay my PhD and so on and so forth. So, and the other question is, of course, retaining people in IT. I think, of course, respect plays a role in that as well. And IT is not really like super respected among science, right? And so we also have to ask maybe ourselves. And the second thing is salaries, of course, because at the moment everyone gets jobs in cloud centers and enterprises and so on, but they earn 3 times as much.
Regarding the papers, here I quite have a great respect for the research software engineering who pushed for saying, okay, I've got a release, I can get a DOI which is actually recognizable. This is the work I am doing. You can see it, there is the DOI. So maybe we need something similar, that recognition in general. And here I'm hoping to get similar like the RSE, I get a society, you know, not like the Royal Society of Chemistry, for example, which if you say, okay, I do a master course, I do a PhD course, they come to you and they actually assess your course. Has it a certain standard? If so, you can actually bestow an MSc or a PhD. And if we do something similar here to get a recognition, a sheet of paper, Loriot as your German Jodler diplom. So I've got something in my hand, even though it is just a sheet of paper, but I've got something which is recognized. I think that might also help.
So maybe I can make a comment. I mean, this is not unique to our world, right? I mean, there's a lack of system administrators all over the place, and it's recognized as well. I mean, so now there's a new European project, right, that's about training this current or next generation of people and providing visiting, allowing them to visit like established centers and to learn from them, and it's all part of a framework. That's the idea, at least. I mean, it's only just started, so we don't know. But yeah, it's a complicated space. I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, Kenneth says he writes papers, right? But you don't compete with other people to have a high impact factor so that you can get a position. You already have a position, right? Other people that don't have that luxury, right? So if they're relying on it to survive, it's not enough. And then in the other case, Bart said, you know, you give them life flexibility, right? So you can't compete on salary, but you can compete on lifestyle. And that's maybe also a difficult one because you can't offer them any kind of permanency. I mean, in the academic space in general, it's getting worse fast, right? So even somebody before who like thought they were on a professorship path is just cut, right? I mean, the UK, there was terrible cuts, right? I mean, it happens, right? And so it's actually getting worse in general. And now you're trying to squeeze into a space that's already squeezed, right? And it's getting worse. It's a difficult situation. So yeah, it is lifestyle, but you're not giving them enough of the, I think it's a tricky one, right? Because they go, well, at least if I go there, I get paid more money, and they're not going to, you know, at least they imply that they'll keep me for some period of time.
I perfectly agree. That is the reason I mentioned my friend's son. If you're young, you want to have a family, never mind lifestyle too much, but you need quite a bit of money, and there's also the cost of living crisis going on. So what do you want to do? A perk where you get a t-shirt like that one? No offense, please. Or a more substantial salary? I think I go for the t-shirt.
I just
That's
want
me.
I just want to give a different perspective on the publication thing, because actually I went into IT because I wanted to get out of the publication pressure. So for me, it was the solution to get out, right? And I still wanted to do something bordering science. So to me, it was the solution. It might not be for everybody, and I agree. If you want to get like PhD students more involved, they'll be like, yeah, you know, it's not worth my time because I need the publication, right? They're still part of that system. So I don't know, maybe we need to get them earlier, like in the masters, there's not that publication pressure, so maybe then we need to get them earlier involved.
Could I just inject here? Instead of saying publication, I think we all could agree on some kind of recognition. So if you achieved something, it is recognized. Publication, pull requests, a DOI for a piece of software you publish.
Measurable scientific output.
Measurable, yeah, something I can brag about when I'm going to a new.
Roberto's comment is, basically we've gone away from IT professional jobs at this point. We're talking about how do you look like an academic with an IT job, not how do you work in IT. I'm going to publication. I'm in a job, I don't want to publish. I've told my boss that. But I'm a research software engineer. My job would be quite happy if I publish. But I've gone, no, I don't want to do that. You know, that's definitely stepping away from being an IT professional. And that's, you know, further across. What?
There is something we tend to do here is to oppose the industry and the academics as if there were two things totally different that can never merge at some point. What if one solution could be perhaps to perhaps propose some services to the industry, like some consultancy services, for example, because they need expertise that as universities we can provide because we basically train people. So if there were some program where the university would further the training of people who may not learn about system administration in classes. I mean, I talk from experience here. I'm a computer scientist by training. I didn't learn about system administration to the point where I could administrate an HPC center, and I'm still learning, like all of us, I guess, because we learn the things every day. We have that expertise. There is not enough of us, but if we could propose some sort of attractive position where you work part-time in some industry that actually come to us for services, we could offer, yeah, we could offer some sort of financial compensation to those people who would find working with us attractive, and at the same time having all the flexibility of university, being able to experiment with new technologies as soon as they come out, which is not always the case, not often the case in industry. I think there is something here where if we try to overlap a little bit between the two worlds, both of those two worlds could benefit. I think now it's some idea to explore, and I think it's worth a try at least.
Roberto's just commented that consultancies are being used by some universities already, and he sees it as a future. I'll just go into a slightly comment is, a lot of us are in a idea where job for life discussion, and you know, having been seeing people retiring out the end of ours who have been in that job for 20, 30, 40 years in the same place. One way of stopping recruitment being a problem is making sure nobody ever leaves. The other one is, yeah, I'm going with the alternative though, is make sure you've got enough of a pipeline that it doesn't matter if you have 10 people leave this year, because we will have 10 more people coming in next year for enough time, you know, that sort of workflow. We've very much gone around we can't have anybody leave because we've got no pipeline of people coming behind them. If you've got a pipeline of people coming behind them, you can afford to have people leave.
On
We-
the, on
There's one more comment in the back, and then we should maybe break it out into the coffee session so we can start again at 3. So they won't kick us out before we can do the tour as well. So let's hear what Alex has to say, and then we break out into coffee.
Well, basically, I want to join Caspar in saying that I don't want to publish, and I don't want to be forced to publish. I already published all I have to publish. And also because publishing is hard, and it's a requirement that it's much more than what our job requires. So to publish, you need to be have original work, innovate. That's actually not really needed for our positions, which are 80% operative work, I would say. But what I think that it's very important is that we should visualize and kind of standardize our jobs, because I think that we are kind of in a obscure zone. So for instance, when I was a postdoc doing research, I actually had no idea how to make the jump to be a more technical in the HPC. And I had to actually figure out a lot of things on my own. So it could be nice to kind of somehow standardize our work, our jobs, I would say. So I don't know how, with some formation, a title, something. Also, to standardize how we measure our expertise, like let's say with PRs or, I don't know, doing certifications or something like that.
So before we go for coffee, I've got a little exercise. You get exactly 5 seconds to think of a bridge. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it depends on where you're from. If you're from the US, you might have thought of Golden Gate Bridge. If you are from London, for example, Tower Bridge, you like it a little bit more romantic, that might be the bridge which came to your mind. And of course, as we are close to Cologne, Deutsche Brücke. The reason I showed that is, one of the things we really have to remind ourselves is diversity. Everybody of you were thinking of a different bridge when I counted down. Might have been one of them, might have been a different one, but we need that diversity. On that note, happy coffee.
Thank you. And one last thing, if you want to attract kids, stickers are helpful. So steal some of the stickers and hand them out.